So I had to put that in there just in case somebody's on some obsessive psychopath stuff, and we'll talk about that in future shows. I've already covered the narcissism, and I've already covered soul tying. So, since you've been listening from the beginning, you already know where I'm going with this. It's just time to really let go. You have to love a person enough to let them go and see them happy, and it might not be that happiness shared with you. So on that note, number 1, the goodness is gone. While chemistry and shared values are important, at the end of the day, solid relationships are built on the goodness that exists between two people. Goodness is what holds relationships together. It is the kindness, the goodwill toward each other, the being on that person's side even when they might be wrong, the willingness to forgive flaws and mistakes, the tolerance for their annoying habits. It's the support, the admiration, the respect, the dedication and commitment you have with each other. The goodness doesn't generally disappear overnight. It's something that erodes slowly over time. Behaviors that indicate the goodness may be wanting include chronic irritability, anger, distance, meanness, and lack of respect of any kind. Unfortunately, once the goodness fades, there has generally been so much hurt in the relationship that it's very hard to regain. 2, you are being disrespected. Respect is one of the most important aspects of any relationship. It even trumps trust because you cannot trust someone who disrespects you. Even small slights matter because the way someone treats you ultimately reveals their character and their true feelings about you. Disrespect can come in many forms and you may not always fully recognize it on the surface, but you will always feel it. It's that kicked in the gut feeling you get when some normative expectation that exists within the relationship has been violated. Behaviors such as insults, lying, or cheating are all disrespect, and what they really show is a lack of concern about how you feel and the impact these behaviors have on you. If you're not sure if someone is being disrespectful or just unaware, tell the person how their behavior is making you feel and see what happens. If the person makes an effort to understand your perspective and alter their behavior, then they are showing you that they care. But if they dismiss you or go right back to the same behavior, then they are showing a lack of respect for you and your relationship. 3, you are trying too hard. The energy flow between two people in most healthy relationships is generally fairly equal. The give and take should allow both people, for the most part, to feel they are getting their needs met. When a relationship starts to deteriorate, it can feel like one person is doing all the work to maintain the relationship, which creates an unbalance and a disconnect. The person doing all the work can become resentful, and the person on the receiving end can become more and more complacent. When you try too hard to get someone to come toward you, what generally happens is they move in the opposite direction. If you feel you've been doing most of the work in the relationship lately, take a big step back and see what happens. If your partner starts to pick up the slack and come towards you, then the possibility of realigning the energy still exists. If, however, you step back and your partner gets angry or continues to drift further away, then chances are he or she isn't coming back. 4, it's all about the other person. While all relationships are different, both people should generally feel there is room for them to grow and develop, to feel their individual dreams and aspirations in life matter. They should feel there is a space for their interests to be included in the relationship and that there is enough opportunity for each person's needs to be met. Relationships that are unbalanced in this respect tend to revolve around one person. The person who the relationship revolves around is generally satisfied with this arrangement, while the other person ends up feeling resentful, used, and like they are living someone else's life. If you feel like the relationship is all about the other person, try creating some space for yourself and being vocal about your needs. If the other person gets upset or isn't responsive, then it is likely that to find yourself and maintain your own identity, you may have to move on. Saying goodbye is never easy, but maintaining your self-respect and dignity are key to your mental well-being, and sometimes letting go is the best thing you can do for yourself. Know that when you take care of you, you are putting yourself in the best possible position to be in a happy, healthy, and fulfilling relationship, and it is just a matter of time before you find one. How to move on when you still love your ex. Nothing can keep you from a happier future than a lingering relationship wound. We've all been there. Experiencing good love gone bad is painful. It doesn't really matter what the circumstances were or who was right and who was wrong. The bottom line is that it hurts and that the pain is preventing you from moving forward. While time is the best healer, there are 5 concrete steps you can take that will facilitate the process. 1. Cut off contact. Do this at least for a little while. No, you do not need to be friends. Keeping an ex in your life is not by itself a sign of maturity. Knowing how to take care of yourself and your emotional well-being is. Many people hang on to the idea of friendship with an ex as a way to keep the possibility of the relationship alive because the idea of completely letting go seems too overwhelming. While, depending on the circumstances, a friendship may eventually be possible, being friends can't happen in a genuine way until you have healed through most of, if not all, the pain, which takes time. Being your own best friend is what is most important during a difficult breakup, and that means not putting yourself in situations that don't lead to feeling good. When you are hurting, you are vulnerable. Protecting yourself with healthy boundaries is an essential part of good self-care. Politely let your ex know you need your space and you would prefer not to be in contact for the time being. Don't ghost them. If you must remain in contact because of children or other shared obligations, know that there is a distinct difference between being friendly and being friends. True friendship means 2 people care about each other's well-being and have one another's best interests at heart. By the time many relationships end, it is often in question whether both parties can genuinely provide this kind of care and support for one another. The expectation that someone who didn't treat you well while you were together will be capable of being a true friend afterwards sets you up to continue being hurt. But choosing to be friendly means you can, without expectations, acknowledge the love you shared and honor that time in your life by treating the other person with kindness and respect. 2. Let go of the fantasy. Many people don't realize that a large majority of the pain they experience during a breakup has nothing to do with the relationship they really had. Relationships always end for a reason. It is rarely a complete surprise because things generally haven't been going well for a while. There is often a long list of what each person did or didn't do that led to all the fighting and hurt feelings. Most people don't want back the relationship they actually had. What they mourn for is the relationship they thought they could have had if things had been different. But the truth is that relationship didn't exist. Letting go of a dream can be painful. When the relationship first started, there were expectations set for what it could be based on the good things that seemed to be unfolding at the time. Almost all relationships are great in the beginning. Otherwise, they would never start it. But the whole of the relationship is what it was from beginning to end. Because our mind is trying to heal our heart, the painful memories often get shifted to the background and we find ourselves remembering and longing for the good times. We forget who the person really was, excuse me, and idolize who we wanted them to be. A good strategy for getting past these moments is to simply write down every painful thing you can remember happening during the relationship and read it over to yourself while making the effort to vividly recall those memories until the painful feelings subside. The point here isn't to stay angry, but to remember the full truth of why the relationship ended. Eventually, letting go of these events will be an important part of the forgiveness and healing process. But in order to let go of something, you must first acknowledge and accept that it happened. 3. Make peace with the past. When someone treats you poorly or does something hurtful, it is a natural and healthy response to feel some anger. Anger helps you be aware of situations that are not in your best interest and can facilitate the separation process from an unhealthy relationship. But when we hold on to anger and resentment from past experiences, we take them with us into the future. Nothing hurts more than when someone you love does something that causes you to reevaluate who you believe them to be. When someone betrays the trust you gave, it is painful. But letting what someone else did limit your ability to move forward means they still exert control over your life. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone else off the hook for his or her bad behavior. It is about your emotional freedom. Learning to forgive and make peace with things that happened in the past can happen more easily when you take your focus off of the specific events that occurred and instead try to see the perspective of the people involved. Most people don't act with the intention of directly hurting someone else. Generally, they make choices intending to make themselves feel better. For better or worse, it is our nature as human beings to operate from our own self-beneficial perspective, and the impact of our actions on others is often a secondary consideration. It doesn't make it right. Sometimes seeing someone else's perspective can help you understand the events that unfolded better and make them less personal. It can also be easier to forgive someone when you see them as a whole person. If you find yourself stewing in anger over something that someone else did or didn't do, try to pull back and remember the good qualities you saw in them when you first met, and recognize that we all have flaws and we all make mistakes. 4. Know it is okay to still love them. Love is never wrong. When someone comes into your life who allows you the opportunity to experience love, that is always a true gift. Part of maturity, however, is recognizing that love by itself isn't always enough to make a relationship work. Many other factors and circumstances, such as timing, incompatible values, or the choice we make, play a significant role in whether a relationship can thrive. But moving on from a relationship that isn't working isn't always about ending the love you feel. Sometimes the only way to let go is to love someone enough to want the best for him or her, even if that means not being together. There are many forms of love, and it has the capacity to shift, evolve, and change over time. Let the romantic love you felt evolve into a different type of love that encompasses caring and compassion for a person who had an important place in your life. This will help facilitate the healing process. A good deal of the pain we feel when a relationship ends has to do with the loss we perceive. Conceptualizing it as a transition instead of a loss can ease some of the hurt. The truth is, the relationships we have in life last forever. They last in our memories, in the feelings we have when we think of them, and who we have become because of them, and in the lessons we take forward from them. Number 5, love yourself more. Ultimately, moving on from a relationship that wasn't working is about loving yourself. For some, this is the hardest part. Believing that you deserve to be in a loving relationship with someone who shares your values and treats you well requires that you view yourself in a positive light. If the thought of this seems daunting because your inner dialogue is filled with negative self-doubt, criticism, or self-loathing, you may need to enlist the help of a professional. You can't expect someone else to treat you better than you treat yourself. Self-forgiveness is an important part of self-love. In hindsight, you may feel that there are things you could have done differently, but it is impossible to know what different outcomes could have